computer. And there we go. So now we're recording. All right, everybody. Well, let me introduce today's guest to the podcast, Authorsphere. So when I do this on my podcast without video, I've got these little cards I can put up so it looks more professional. I talk about welcome to Authorsphere and blah, blah, blah. When we do it this way, we're doing a Zoom call basically. I haven't figured out yet. I've been too cheap. I've been using free software. So I haven't figured out how to cut that stuff all together to make it look good. So joining us today, so you get the inexpensive version. We're flying on a budget here. Joining me today is Bridget Roy, known on TikTok as BridgetsBookShelf, reviews books, avid reader, and we'll talk about all that. And I was gonna ask you, then we decided, well, we should probably just ask that as part of the show. So you've got over 1,100 followers now on TikTok. How long have you been using TikTok? I think not that long, right?
Not that long at all. I first started using it when COVID became really big, just to, like escape and just, I would just watch videos for hours, just scrolling. And then when I moved to South Carolina from Massachusetts.
Nobody can tell that's where you're from, that Massachusetts.
Yep, right in Boston. When we moved down here, we didn't know anybody. And so I started to get back into reading a lot just to kind of, not feel so alone and like just have my own thing.
Sure.
And I stumbled across Book Talk and I was like, these are my people. Like, I love this. So I decided to kind of like break out of my shell a little bit and just started posting, and I kind of ran with it.
It was almost my situation. I got an account. Gosh, I didn't know when. I say it was like a year ago. It might have been longer now. But yeah, I think it's coming up on a year. I probably haven't even been on a year. And my daughter was all about TikTok. And so, sitting in the living room watching TV and she's trying to record some dance over in the corner.
That's how my daughter is. Yep.
Yeah. She's like, I'm doing a TikTok. And she'd cut and paste and she'd show me this thing. I'm like, oh, that's cute. She's like, Dad, you need to open an account so you can like my video. She was all about getting likes on the videos, right? Like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So, and then I didn't use it at all. Like, so that's last August. And then I did nothing until December. My wife came in and said, people are advertising and stuff. You should get on TikTok and talk about your books and stuff. I was like, yeah, it's dance videos for little kids. It's not, my daughter's 12, exactly. But, that was what I thought. So I thought, all right, I'll check it out. So I think my wife had an account at that point. My daughter did, I did. So my daughter automatically, when she would post a video, she'd automatically get 2 likes. Then she had a handful of friends, like 6 friends who would like her videos. So I started just like watching, right? Scrolling through, and I'm watching all these funny dog videos of people who can't water ski. And next thing I know, I started like January 1st, January 2nd. Next thing I know, by about January 5th, let's just say, I'm just spending like more than an hour a day just watching videos.
Right.
And back then they were short, like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I decided, okay, I still didn't know what I wanted to do as far as content. I'm still not sure I know what I want to do as far as content. But so back then I was like, okay, we'll try some things. So I just recorded like author meme type stuff, stuff you used to see on the internet, just little postcard stuff. And my wife's like, why are you doing that? My daughter actually, why are you doing that? And I'm like, well, this way, if somebody comes to my account, there are things there to see besides the one video that I'll make. I might not think of another idea for a video for a week. And they're like, no, you got to do this, that. So then it was like probably the hardest thing was to post like the first video. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't in them. Now I'm like in all of them, like you are in all yours. Right. But when I first started doing it, I was like, I had the picture of this, like the bookshelf or something, and just not thinking about what do people who come to see my content, what do they want to see?
Right.
I didn't really know. I'm like, well, I like watching the funny dog videos, but I'm not a funny dog, although I have a dog. I mean, he's just not that funny. So how did you figure out, what was your evolution into watching and then posting? What was the transition there?
Yeah, so I noticed, like for me personally, I like a lot of videos that kind of have like a very cool aesthetic. So like the covers of books, like I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I do, like
everybody does.
I am drawn to those. So I try to like post, with like cool covers and things like that. And then just like book reviews. I really enjoy hearing someone's perspective on a book. Even if I've already read it, I feel like no two reviews are the same. So I
Well,
kind of,
that's right. If
yeah,
if I follow, and I do, let's say I follow 5 or 6 people who review books, if by chance they all happen to read the same book, which kind of yes, kind of no,
right.
but let's just say they all did, then and then I read it and like I don't like it, and maybe
Mhm.
one or two liked it, one or two didn't. It begins to show me as a reader, my interests are kind of aligned with this person's interests.
Yep.
So if person A says 2 thumbs up, and person B says it was okay, I didn't like this,
Mhm.
that, and the other about it, but it was a good read. I like the way it was written. I watched one. Um, it might have been one of yours. The Truth. Did you read The Truth?
No, I have not read that yet.
So somebody posted about The Truth, and I read that one, and I liked the writing style. Okay.
Yep.
Specifically, I didn't do a review of it or anything, but actually, I probably did, because I posted about 3 books I
Yeah.
was going to read, and I didn't like any of the 3, right? But the review of the book, so I started reading The Truth because it was TikTok, was a lot of people on
Yep.
TikTok were raving about it. And I'm like halfway through, and I'm like, I like the way this guy writes. I'm not sure I like this book. I'm not sure I care about the Boy Scout troop getting lost and the bad things that can happen to them.
Exactly.
This negative element, or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
Um, and but I bought it quickly. And just when I saw a handful of people like that on TikTok, I said, give me a shot, because I had some time off. I wanted to do some reading. So I ordered these 3 books in, but I didn't know anything about them, nothing about them. Now, normally
Yeah.
that's not the case. Normally I read a little bit about it. I read the description. I check out the cover. Do I like that
Right.
author? Have I read that author
Exactly.
before? And do any of that with this, which, word wise, I won't do that again.
Right.
But Nick, something or other is his name, the author of this. And I mentioned to somebody that they asked me, like outside of TikTok,
Hmm.
how are you enjoying the book? And I said, I like the guy's writing style. He writes the way I write,
Hmm.
which was what I liked about it. That kind of makes sense, right?
Right.
But about halfway through, I'm like, this one is like, if you're looking at the shades of a rainbow, it's like, maybe I prefer more blue, and this is more blue green.
Right.
And then I read the cover description, because I took a day off from reading. I was just real busy. And when I picked it up, I actually looked at the cover, and one of the descriptions from somebody who, was doing a testimonial, said it reads like a '80s slasher movie. And I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, it does. And I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have picked a book like that to read.
Had I known. Yeah.
Yeah. So just underscoring the element was what I did like about it. Guy's a good writer. And what I liked was he writes how I write. I like that. I like whatever style you want to call that. And so when you pick that book up, it's like, okay, if you like that kind. So now I know the people who liked it, it being a horror book,
Hmm.
thriller horror,
Yep.
that's a little different animal than if you're just reading some kind of a fiction story or whatever. So that showed me that, hey, you know what? There's good resources out there, but do your research. And after you've read 10 books that these 10 people have read, or 10
Right.
books this person's read and the same has read those, then you'll start to figure out, oh, I like what she likes. Now, the reason this is important is I don't read that many books a year. That's not the important part, but
Yeah.
you do. You
Do.
describe yourself as a reading enthusiast. So
Yeah.
how many do you read in a month, or
I would say in a month anywhere between 10 and 15, I would say.
that's a lot of books.
Yeah,
So
that's
let's just say it's 15. That's like a book
okay.
every 2 days. So you're
Yeah.
burning through them. Now, in your non-TikTok life, you're a hairstylist.
I am, yes.
So you got the audio book, you got earbuds in, and as you're cutting hair, you're
So no, I haven't got into audiobooks. I don't know. It's just
well, how do
I
you
like
read
having the
2 books, a book every 2 days?
I come home from work, I get the kids settled, I get dinner going, and then I'm like, everybody needs to leave me alone for a little while, and I just sit and I read. And I got a Kindle about 2 months ago, and I noticed that I can read faster on a Kindle. So I have just been flying through them on Kindle.
Well, but you were reading that volume of books before you got to Kindle. So you were primarily paperbacks?
Yes, yes. I have some hardbacks, but I prefer paperback all the way.
See, my thing is I prefer paperbacks. Hardbacks are nice.
Yep.
I should, when I buy a book, I tend to buy a hardcover. I don't know why, honestly, I just do. Actually, I probably, because it's a little bigger. And so maybe the font's a little bigger, but the pages are a little bigger. It's just a little easier for me, I guess. But I couldn't figure out why, because, you know, you can get a zillion books on a Kindle through like Kindle Unlimited. And I realized it's because I spend so much time in front of a computer all day anyway, that when I'm relaxing, I don't want to be in front of a computer.
Don't want to, exactly. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And I'll take a little gooseneck lamp, you know, like a desk lamp, and my wife and daughter will be out there watching out there, like you've been at the house out there, right?
Yeah.
They'll be in the you know, family room, and our family room and kitchen table. It's all like one big room kind of thing. And so they'll be on one side of it watching some movie or whatever, and I'll be at the kitchen table with my little gooseneck, and I'll just be reading it. But I can still interact with them, because it's not that hard to pull your eyes off and see what they're laughing at and ask a question or whatever. And they're enjoying the movie, so they're not going to interact with me too much, but they can. And of course, don't have earphones on and all that, so I can interact back. But I tend to read paperbacks, and it's when I'm reading them is usually when I'm done writing one of my own books, and I'm not into the editing and reviewing and getting feedback from beta readers. I'm not into that phase yet. I send it out to all the ARC readers and beta readers. It takes them like some time to read it, because just because I'm done doesn't mean they're ready to start reading. So it could be a week before I start getting feedback. So I usually take that time and read something else, just to kind of like a reset on the brain, get my story out of my head. And I just read whatever. So in this case, it was going to be a couple of horror novels. Prior to that, I read some nonfiction historical stuff and some old James Bond books. You know, the movies and the books are different, right? Well, in some of these, they're very different. And I just thought, you know, these were hugely popular, like in the, I don't know, late 50s, early 60s, I guess. Yeah. And I just thought, let's see how they hold up. And some of them held up, and some of them, it was written by a British guy. So some of the stuff words they use are just not words we'd use today. Right. And you see some, or they're British words, and we wouldn't use that word. Exactly. So would you say you're a pretty not versatile, but you're a pretty eclectic reader? Do you read a full spectrum of stuff, or do you have certain niches that you stick within?
So I usually stick to like thriller, suspense, mystery. I'm trying a little bit of true crime.
Well, what would you consider a thriller? Because different people consider thrillers to be different things.
Right. I personally, for me, I consider a thriller something that like is a page turner, that is like making me, you know, like guess the whole time. Like my brain's always moving. Like every little thing plays a part when you're getting to the end. And sometimes you can like figure it out, but a lot of the time I'm left like speechless at the end.
Well, that's the whole point. It's like the author's goal is to give you some clues, lead down some dead ends, and then and have a nice what I call a satisfying ending. Maybe a surprise, maybe not, but satisfying ending that if you were to go back and read it again, you'd say, yeah, all the clues were there. Right. And some readers connect them, some don't. I think a lot of people like when I watch a TV show that's a thriller, or one of those what are they called? Dateline, where it's like Dateline. I like Dateline because first they make you think like the woman dies. Like first they make you think it's the husband, then they make you think it's the boyfriend she was seeing on the side. Then it turns out to be the mailman or something, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But the way they set it up, and so while we're watching those, my wife will be like, "Oh, I think it's the husband." I'm like, "Well, we're in the first 15 minutes. They want you to think it's the husband, so it can't be the husband." But then sometimes they circle back and it's the husband. So I watch that and I'm like, okay, that's fun for me. I'm guessing along, but I'll have 3 different suspects. I'm convinced it's the husband in the first 15 minutes. Then I'm convinced it's the boyfriend in the second 15 minutes. And then it's the old high school flame in the third 15 minutes. Yeah. and my wife is the same way. And I'm like, I think there are readers who, when they post their review and they're like, oh yeah, I knew who it was. I'm like, that's because you suspected everybody. I don't think you knew who it was. You know? Yeah. So are you pretty good? Like I have a friend who says she usually knows who the killer is before the end of the book. I'm more along for the ride. I'm figuring it out when I'm a reader. But it's not a big deal for me to, I'm convinced it's so-and-so. I kind of like on the Dateline stuff, I kind of go where they're pointing me and I'm like, okay, I can see why it could be this person. Which way are you? Do you figure it out, or are you?
I think I'm more like along for the ride, because in my head when I'm reading, I'm like, I make like mental notes. I'm like, okay, this person did this. This was kind of shady, so they could be involved. And then like I said, I'll make like a mental note and have like a list in my head of like, okay, this person did this one did this one. So, and when I get to the end, I'm like, okay, it makes sense as to why this person was because of, XYZ. So yeah, I think I'm more along for the ride and kind of
That's how most people are. I think it's more enjoyable if you do it that way. I think, but there are people who want to be the detective, like kind of whatever clues they get, they want to, okay, now we think it's like the scales all balanced or whatever. But I think the people who figure it out ahead of time, I don't think as many actually do as think they do. I think they're more like me, where they suspect everybody. And then it's like, I suspected that one. Well, you suspected them all. Like, well, yeah, but I did suspect that one too. So. Yeah. So do you read, thrillers to me are like what you said, mysteries with a fast pace, maybe a lot of the main characters getting in and out of dangerous situations, but not like Indiana Jones, not like an action adventure, but lots of things popping up. And the way I try to write is to answer a question in one chapter and ask another question in that chapter that you gotta turn the page to find out what happens with that, right? And I try to start them fast to grab you right away, and you just boom, 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 just have it keep moving. I can't believe anybody would write something that's not that way. But the reason I do it is because that way, when you have a moment of contemplation for the character or whatever, where they're really sitting there looking at a bulletin board or a chalkboard of all their different things, and they're kind of going through, well, it could be this person, it could be that person. Here's why this, here's why that. It's also kind of a refresher for the reader. Like, don't forget, it could be this one, it could be that one.
Right.
And where you'll have a conversation between the detective. Well, it can't be this one because, but it could be her, but it could be him. I like to do that. But I also, that's one of those where if I slow it down for that, in other words, if it's all 90 miles an hour, you kind of get used to 90 miles an hour. So if I put in some slower spots that are more contemplative, or maybe setting up something else that's not obvious when you're reading it, then it's because it has a slower spot, the faster spots seem faster. And I try to do that, but not everybody does that. And that's why there's different styles. There are certainly many popular authors who don't. Who are some of your favorite authors?
So I've been getting into some Karen Slaughter. I feel like her books to me seem long, but she has a way of flowing everything together that when you're done, you're like, okay, it makes sense as to why this was so long, because she needed to kind of draw out certain aspects to tie everything together. And then I've been reading some Grady Hendrix. I feel like he's more 80s slasher type vibes, which I really enjoyed.
Karen Slaughter is mostly murder mystery type stuff, right?
Yeah, I've read a couple of hers, but I feel like, I don't know, I kind of branch out to different authors. I don't have a set one that I always go to. I was
gonna say, do you have one that when somebody's putting, author X is putting out a book, you're like, I'm definitely getting, I don't even need to know what it's about?
Not really, no. I kind of just if it appeals to me, I'll get it, even if it's an author I've never really heard of. If the plot and the, when I'm reading the back of the book, the little excerpt or whatever, if it's something I enjoy, then I'm just gonna grab it. I don't have an auto buy author that I would necessarily go to. So,
well, to me, books are relatively inexpensive in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. If I typically tend to buy hardcovers. I just do. But then, when I'm done reading it, it's going to go one of three places. Let's say I'm either going to stick it on the shelf here as a favorite that I want to keep, or if it was good, but I don't think it's going to be a forever keep type book, then I'll ask my wife to put it on eBay or whatever and sell it. Right. maybe you get half your money back. So you spend 20, 25 bucks, you get maybe 10 or 11. That's not so bad. You definitely, pass on the savings, or I'll donate it either to the library or Salvation Army or the veterans home, and get utility that way. But those places, well, Salvation always takes everything, but the other places aren't always, accepting of the books, or don't want certain topics. And I would say I'm not really eclectic. I don't read a lot of romance. I enjoy romantic comedies on TV or movies, let's say. If there's like, I like comedies. As far as movies go, I prefer comedies, right? So when my wife and I are trying to find something, we'll go see whatever popular movies, typically not rom-coms, but what at home, what we'll enjoy is we'll stumble like into, oh, this one looks cute, like Hugh Grant movies and stuff like that. So you like a good horror story as well. You prefer murder mysteries. That's probably the main part of what you enjoy.
Right.
And you probably have a bunch of favorite authors there. Who are some? I don't want to ask you who you don't like, but you, based on the number of books you read in a month, you have to be stumbling across people you don't like. Do they end up on your never read list, or are you always willing to give them a shot?
Not really. So I read a Riley Saga book a couple months ago, and I didn't like it. It just wasn't, I don't know if it was the style of the book. I don't know. I wasn't a fan. But I did buy another book by him, and I was like, maybe this one would be different. I'll give it another chance. So I'm always open to like.
Well, how'd the second one turn out?
What was that?
So you didn't like one by Riley Sager, and then you gave another one a chance. Did you read the second one yet?
I have not read it yet. It is on my list. Hopefully within like the next 2 weeks I'll read it. But this book seemed really good. I've seen a lot of great reviews on it, so I was like, you know what, let's try it out. Maybe the first one I read just wasn't for me. Maybe this one will be better.
That's usually the approach I take, which is, again, to do a movie analogy, Stephen King, not Stephen King, Steven Spielberg, or Stephen King, either one, right? Let's look at Spielberg first. Probably my favorite movies that I've enjoyed in my life were his. Okay, like if there was like my top 10 movies, he'll have a bunch of them in there, right?
Yeah.
But he's also got a bunch that I can care for at all. So I actually looked up one time, and it was about 1/3 of the movies he did are ones I liked. Now they all did well, almost all of them, right? So that means 2/3 of the time he makes something that isn't for me, even though he's probably my favorite movie director. Stephen King's another one. He writes a lot of books. Right. There have been so many of his books that I didn't like, but I really like him as an author. And some of my favorite books are Stephen King books, different seasons and The Shining, and a bunch of them. And then some I actually didn't like to the point where I didn't finish them. And others are adorned on a bookshelf as like all favorite books. Same guy, right? So maybe it was how he was feeling when he wrote it. Maybe it's how I was feeling when I read it. And then there are other books of his where I'm like, I could take it or leave it. It was good enough. Like, do you? So that's what I find. And then, guys, however long he's been writing, 50 years, whatever it's been, you're allowed to evolve and change too. And maybe he, like music bands, there's a band I like, and then didn't like their second album as much, and the third album I'm like, I don't like those guys anymore. Yeah. So they can't keep pushing out the same stuff. They can't write the same song every time, and they get old for that reason. So you're reading a book every 2 days, which just blows my mind, right? So how long? But here's why: because it takes me, like, if I write fast, it takes me like 6 weeks to write a book. Then it goes to ARC readers and beta readers, and then maybe if I'm lucky, 6 weeks after that, I've got something I could actually show to the world. Okay. And as far as the judge a book by its cover, this is why it's fun to talk to somebody who's not a New York Times book critic. Okay. So like people say you're not supposed to judge a book by cover. Let me tell you, the people who create the books, we spend so much time trying to design a cover that's going to look how you want it to look for that genre. When I first started out, I didn't do that. I would pick covers I'd talk to cover designers. Oh, I like that. Let's go with that. And it wouldn't sell. I'm like, what's wrong? And the next cover designer would be like, well, here's the top 10 books in this genre. And then here's yours. Which one of these doesn't belong? I'm like, oh yeah, my book doesn't look anything like those. And they're like, so, right. And I use the analogy, it's like trying to sell milk in an oil can. It's like, it doesn't look how it's supposed to look. Right. So when I started leaning more towards, I'm not the artist for that stuff, right? When I started leaning more towards the cover designers who were good at designing specifically for a genre, then I got, like a newsletter, I have my readers club. Then I would take like 3 or 4 book covers I'd be looking at, and I'd send them out to them, right? Yeah. So if you receive this email, you're like, hey, help me out. Here's 5 covers I'm looking at. Which one do you think is best for this genre? It was never the one I picked. I mean, secretly, I wouldn't tell them. It's like number 3 is my choice. There's 5 choices. They never picked the one I like. They always picked, like 80% of them would pick the same cover, right? So if I gave them 5 choices, not only did they not pick mine, but they all would put like choice 2, like, oh, choice 2. Yep. And I asked them, or if you like number 1, but you said the victim on the cover should have glasses or whatever, tell me that. And, a few people would say that, but mostly like, oh, no. And they would all pick the same cover. It's like, dang, there's just an art to it. There's an eye that I don't possess. So that's huge. And then writing the book description is writing ad copy. You're trying to create like a commercial for the book, which is very different from storytelling in a book. So some people are good at that. I figure I'm a writer, I'm an author. I should be able to learn that skill, but it's very different. And when the part of my brain works that does that part of the job, it's like it works really well. Right. And when it doesn't, I'm like, well, it's about this, and then this happens, and this, and this, and this, and I get done with it. I'm like, that is just not going to sell any books, and it doesn't sell any books. I have to go back and change it. So I mean, there's a lot of you would not believe. It probably takes, I would say, the typical author will take weeks trying to figure out the book description. Like as they're writing the book or whatever, and then tweak it a half a dozen times. And the book cover, some people are good at picking them, others aren't. I totally rely. My system is I'm not part of the system. I say there's what I give a short description to my cover designer. He designs me a cover. I get a couple other choices together. I send it out to the Readers Club people, and they pick it. And they're always right. They do a good job. But it's funny that you mentioned that you think you shouldn't judge the book by its cover. It's totally designed for that.
Exactly. It's what we do. Exactly.
And that's part of it. Let's face it. There are books where they just have like a black cover and a yellow word or something like not doing a lot of selling there with that one. Yeah. And then you have some other imagery that represents what you, the reader, want to see in that story. Right. And how do you buy most of your books? Do you go to bookstores to buy them? Do you shop online?
I do most of my shopping online. I have a Barnes & Noble's NAMI, but it's still like a pain in the neck to get to. So I do a lot of like Amazon. I do thrift books. I'm on some groups on Facebook that are like swap groups. So I do a lot of that.
Cool. Well, yeah, you're going through 15 books. So you're dropping some serious coin on that.
So yeah, I do it most that way.
See, online, I don't really worry, but online, you're not going to see you don't have the ability to turn the book over and read that description on the back or see what other information, if it puts there, you got to click and read the Amazon description, which is going to be whatever would have been on the back of the book. When there's the back of the book, there's the inside cover stuff. In person, you would probably look at all that stuff and maybe even flip through the book and get a sampling of the writing. Yep. But you can also do that on Amazon. You can't flip through it really, but you can definitely bring up the first, 10% or something?
I think, like a little blurb.
Well, if you click on the read, whatever it is, like read a sample, it'll bring up like a chapter or something, so you can read some of it. So which way have you found is most effective for getting the books that you like, or does it not matter?
So I guess, I don't know, because I do, so again, on TikTok, I watch a lot of like book reviews, and I'll read the comments as well and see, like what other people are saying about it. And then when I feel like it's caught my attention enough, I'll go to like Amazon type in the book, read the reviews that people have left, and then I'll go over to Goodreads and I'll do the same thing. And, you know, if most of them are like, this book was great, loved it, then I usually put it on my list.
I don't think you have a lot of people talking about a book on TikTok that doesn't have a lot of favorable reviews on Amazon or Goodreads. Goodreads is a little, I think, well, you tell me, on your Goodreads account, if you have one, I assume you do. Yeah. Are you posting in there about books you like or don't like? If you're reading 15 books this month, are you going to review all 15 on Goodreads or Amazon or wherever?
So typically, no. I usually will just do like a star rating. I'll give it, you know, what I felt it deserved. But I don't necessarily leave like long reviews. I'll mostly like review on TikTok. I don't really like go onto Amazon and do them or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ratings versus review. Yeah.
Yeah, I do enjoy like reading other people's reviews to kind of get their aspect and see if they kind of felt the same way that I did.
Well, that's a good point, though. So you can rate a book and not review it. I think you do that both on Amazon and Goodreads now, right?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. And so I'll look at one of my books and it'll have 500. They're called ratings now. But if you break it out, then it's like maybe 300 reviews, 500 ratings.
Yeah.
And so if there's books you don't like, do you still go on and, even if you don't review them, do you still go into Goodreads and Amazon and rate them?
Typically, yeah. I'll usually put like the whatever star I think that it got.
Well, I thought on Goodreads, people were more prone to only talk about the books they like. I think TikTok's that way. I don't see a lot of people going on TikTok and saying, I did not like this book, I'm only going to give it 2 stars. When they do, I usually leave a comment saying, you know, I appreciate the honesty, because if I'm only seeing the books you like, it's not quite as helpful as if I see ones you like and don't like.
Exactly.
Now, on your TikTok videos, which way do you go with those?
I feel like I'm pretty honest with my reviews. If I don't like a book, I usually will say, like, you know, personally, I didn't feel like this book was for me. I know a lot of people may have liked it, but, you know, and it could be for any reason. It could have just been, you know, the style of writing. It could have been the ending wasn't, you know, what I expected, or, you know, some of the characters. So I think people get like wary. They don't want to leave a bad review, but it's helpful when you do, because then you can kind of, you know, even if I do see a bad review, I'm like, well, I still am interested in this book. I'm still going to check it out. My opinion may be totally different than this person's opinion.
Yeah. I don't think a bad review is ever maybe not get a book.
Right.
Usually if I was going to get the book and I read a review, it depends on what the review says. If it's like somebody who gave it 1 star and said this author shouldn't write anymore, I'm just like, you just had a bad day. I don't know if that's a fair review. And then, especially if it's like it's got 500 reviews that are good, you know, like 4 or 5 stars, and like 2 that are 1-star reviews. I click on the 1 stars. It's like, this was a horrible book. This person shouldn't write. I'm like, okay, 500 other reviews say, yeah, great book.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're the one who figured it all out.
Having a bad day or something.
Yeah, I tend to think, and then and a lot of times you can click through and see what else they review. And a lot of those people who give 1 star, they give 1 star to everything. They're like, it's either 5 stars or 1 star. There's no between. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, it is helpful, because I probably don't pay attention to your review. That's helpful to me to not pay attention to your review. If they review one of mine and give it 1 star, which I do get those. And I'm like, okay, good. Put a 1 star. Well, for 2 reasons. 1, then you won't buy any more of my books. I don't have to worry about any more bad reviews from you.
Exactly.
And 2, my understanding of how Amazon does it, Goodreads is a little different, but my understanding of how Amazon does it is, if I like a book, let's say that Nick Cutter book, The Troop. If I like it and I give it 5 stars, and you like it and you give it 5 stars, then some shopper will be more directed to books that you and I like, and be directed away from books you and I don't like.
Right.
So where that's helpful as an author to get a bad review is, it's going to help people. Let's just say you didn't like something I wrote.
Right.
Of course, we know that's not the case. If you didn't like something I wrote, then it would tell people who like what you like, check out things you like, and it would tell people who don't like what you don't like, stay away from this guy. So it's not going to promote my book to people who won't like it. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
It never feels good to read a bad review, but I always tell people it's helpful in the long run, unless all 500 reviews are all bad, then
Right.
that's helpful
Exactly.
too. It means you
Yeah.
need to do a little better on your next book. But do you have any go-to reviewers that you like who, well, just start with that because you're on TikTok. So you've got, like I said, 1,100 people following you. And your people are pretty interactive, I think. What do you think? I think when you talk about a book, a lot of people watch the video, a lot more watch than comment, I guess, across the board. But the ones that comment, do you find they're like repeat customers? You start to build a rapport with them and you're talking back and forth?
Yeah, I feel like there's a handful that I do kind of, I find myself like going to their page and seeing like if they've posted anything recently. And then, like I'll comment like, oh, love this book. Oh, I can't wait to hear what you think of this. And I feel like I said, I think there's like a handful that I feel like we kind of all talk to each other a little bit and relate different books together.
I do that. There's certain book reviewers who I enjoy their enthusiasm for the book and the energy they put in their videos. They're just fun to watch, and they're not always doing a book review. So I always enjoy seeing their video. And again, your stuff, you're going to read way more books than I'm going to be able to read this year. So it's like I don't need to watch all of the review because I'm probably not reading that book. Right. I'm going to get maybe 6. So I'm good for about 10 days worth of or 2 weeks worth of what you would read.
Right.
But that's because I'm spending my time writing the book.
Exactly.
But I enjoy them. There's a real estate attorney. She actually lives here near me. I love her videos. She talks about real estate trusts and stuff. I'm like, oh. She brings a lot of energy to it. And her first videos were like a person who had a long day and she's got all the clothes on. I don't think it was her. I think it was her partner, somebody who works with her. And they like fall over backwards into a swimming pool. And it's like, had a long day. And I was like, yeah, I get that. It wasn't even about being a lawyer. It was just about, hey, had a long day. And I was trying to get ideas for what kind of things I should put in my videos back then. I think the thing I stumbled onto was making something that's kind of like a short little snapshot of, ooh, this might be an idea for a book. But presenting it like, you're walking down the street and you see a neighbor gardening. It's like, that flower bed's kind of big and I haven't seen his wife in a while. Just like that. Like it's almost like humorous. It's kind of funny. It's not a lot of production value, but it's what you might expect from somebody who writes murder mysteries, right?
Yeah.
So I did, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 of those. And then somebody was like, you need to do some more of those. I was like, I kind of ran out of ideas. It's not my forte. I'm supposed to be writing a book, not doing videos. Yeah. So what kind of time do you spend doing videos? Like if it takes you 2 books on average, 2 days on average to read a book, when do you do a video of that book for TikTok to do your review?
So usually once I finish the book, while I still have everything like fresh in my mind, that's usually when I just I'll go find a quiet space where my kids aren't needing me and I just film. I feel like I don't put too much effort into it. I just kind of just let it come out. You know what I mean?
I think you put effort into it, but you let it flow. You don't, you kind of have this is the information I need to deliver style to it. But one of the things I like, and this goes back to maybe your earlier videos where you came across like, no, I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. I'm going to talk about this book. And it was very endearing because it's like, that's kind of how we all are when we start doing these videos. And then after a while, you fall into a groove. And it's neat to see somebody fall into that groove where it's like, hey, and then you give me an energy. I just finished the book. I really like this one. Or this one didn't cut it for me. But let's just say tonight at 7, you turn the last page, you shut the cover, and you're like, okay, I finished it. At 7:05, are you doing the video, or is it like 2 or 3 days later? I mean,
it's usually right after.
Wow, I really?
try not to unless I have something going on right away. But yeah, I usually try to get the review out as soon as I finish.
I guess that's probably what most reviewers do. I can't imagine they sit on it for a couple of days. Although I've seen videos where they're like, I finished this one Saturday and it's Wednesday, but I wanted to tell you about it while it's still fresh. And it's like, yeah, 3 days, it's still 4 days, it's still fresh. But I get the impression, now that you mentioned, I get the impression that probably most of them do it pretty quickly. I finished the book, let's do our video. Because people are tuning in, I think, for the information, but they can get that information from a lot of different places. There's a lot of, I want your take on it. I like your personality. I like your delivery of the information. And then it also does something you touched on earlier. You said you moved to North Carolina. You didn't know a lot of people right off the bat. It gives you that interaction, I think, that you probably wouldn't have otherwise, but it's specific interaction. So it's safe. We're going to talk about books. Yeah. We're not going to a bar to do it. But it's kindred spirit people that you're finding and who are finding you. And really the ones who find you are probably not more important, but mean more, I guess, than maybe some of the ones you find. Obviously, that doesn't sound right. It's like maybe you'll have more rapport with the people who find you, and then obviously you have more rapport with the ones that interact with you.
Right.
So between getting to 1,100 people now, have you done? How many do you have to be able to do a live TikTok? Is it 1,000?
I think so. I'm not sure. I still am like finding new things on TikTok.
Well, have you done a live session yet?
I have not done a live.
Well, see, I think when we first talked about doing the podcast, I think we were talking about doing a live session. You're like, I don't have enough people to do it yet. So I was like, oh, well, you will see. That's not why we didn't do it. I just got busy and kind of forgot. And but I would like to do live, because what happens is, well, you've seen people doing live videos before, right? What happens is, so I set up mine on TikTok. So I'll have like my phone. Usually I put on a little tripod thing, and I'll set it up and run I'll do live. And then we've talked prior to that. So you're going to do like at noon, let's say. You set yours up live. And then because we're friends on TikTok, it'll send me a message saying, hey, would you like to invite her to join your live call? And then I say yes, or you do it. And then we're both on screen at the same time. My followers can ask me questions, and they'll appear at the bottom of my screen. Same for your followers appearing on your screen, but yours don't appear on my screen. And then depending on who's got the better signal, my people can jump over to your feed. Because almost always there's inevitably a lag, time delay. It always seems like it's on my end, but I usually have my wife doing a video call and my daughter doing some online game thing. Always going on. Yeah, so that probably slows down I think I'm on the low end of the totem pole here, because usually I'm not using internet. Usually I'm writing, so I don't need lots of bandwidth. My wife, that's most of her job is that way. And my daughter, that's all she does. She's watching videos and playing games. She's got 8 tabs open. They're all eating all the bandwidth. So, I don't know. I forget where I was going with that. So the live calls are fun, because then it sends the message out like to the TikTok world. Now yours would go to a lot of book talkers, I would think, but not necessarily. Mine, a lot of it's that, but a lot of it's just random people who say, see you're live, and they jump over to check it out. And if they like it, they ask a question and stuff. And it's fun then, because you get live questions popping up all the time. I probably did 1 or 2 a week for like, let's just say 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And after a while, people were getting used to it, and they were, when are you going to do the next one? So it's really fun, but there's like a pressure that comes. Like you feel like, I need to be entertaining this whole time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like live, and you're like, exactly.
And then I'll be on. Sometimes I wake up early, and I come downstairs and I'm sitting on the couch and let the dog out or whatever. I'm just sitting there. I got like a half hour to kill, and so I'm looking, and there's a bunch of people live, mostly women live, who are like, they're not doing anything. They're just sitting there, and people are asking questions like, why is anybody tuning into this? Like one lady's doing her makeup. I'm like, I want to see that. I can go upstairs and watch my wife do her makeup. Why is that interesting?
Right.
I don't get it. And people ask a question and sending them flowers and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I don't get it. Now I have one lady I like, she's what do you call it? Like somebody who tells you how to do TikTok videos, like instructional, right? How to get more
Okay, yeah.
followers. And so I like her. She's nice. She's not like a salesperson thing. She's just, hey, this is my business, and I'll show you how to
Right.
build your business. And she was cooking dinner one time, so I got on there. I go, "What are you doing? Why are we watching you cook dinner?" She goes, "Well, I have to cook dinner anyway." So I asked her that on the thing. That
Yep.
wasn't rude. And she knew me because I had asked her other questions before and stuff, so she kind of knew who I was, I think. So I asked her that, and she goes, "Well, it's going to take me about an hour to cook dinner. So why not go live and I can answer questions about how to grow
Yeah.
your TikTok business or whatever while I'm doing this." It's a twofer. I was like, fair enough. I'm not really tuning in to watch you cook,
Right.
chicken casserole. I'm tuning in to get the information
Right.
of growing the business. So what are the things that you probably like the most about TikTok, and what are the things you don't like about it?
What I like the most is that I feel like you can just, like be yourself and just kind of post, who you really are. I feel like what I post, and how I act and things like that on TikTok is genuinely how I am.
I would say that's how it seems. I
Yeah,
honestly, that you mention it, I think that's part of why I like watching your videos. It's authentic. You're
right.
not, you don't appear to be pretending to be something you're not. And that's why I said when you were first doing them and you were kind of like,
Yeah. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know what I'm asking
the
my
fact
11-year-old
that you would
to
say
help
that, see, I'm probably more pretentious. I probably wouldn't have said that. But the fact
me. Yeah.
that you did say it, I was like, I like that. You're authentic. You're being honest,
Right.
right? That was an important aspect in why followed you, and then reached out, and we became TikTok friends, and we would
Yeah.
talk, whatever you call it, through the message thing. That's a good point, and that probably for the people who follow you and then take that step and interact, probably feel like they have a connection there, right? Like they're
Right.
meeting a real person, not just a persona.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely feel like I'm very genuine. And, like I said, I post what that's just how I am. Like authentic.
One thing I know for sure, not just with Book Talk, but TikTok in general, is that people who post reviews tend to get very large followings in what I would call relatively short order, right? And
Hmm.
I think it's just because there are plenty of readers out there, and they like hearing what somebody else said about the latest greatest book or whatever. What are the accounts that you like, the ones that you follow? What are some of your favorite accounts?
So I have a couple. One of the first ones that I started following was Crack the Spine, Trina.
Yeah,
I love her content. I feel like
she
she's
she puts a lot of videos out.
yeah, I feel like she's very, very genuine in her reviews, and she's
She
very
seems like a
honest.
very down to earth person too.
Yeah, very like, yeah. She's very honest. I feel like she tells you, this is what I thought and this is how I felt. So I appreciate that. And then Shy Reads, I love her reviews. She blows through books like nobody I have ever met. She reads a lot.
Like faster
So
than you.
yeah, she's very, very honest in her reviews too, which I really like. So I'd say they are like the top two that I'm always like checking their pages, like, all right, what are they posting? What have they read?
Definitely Crack the Spine. There's probably 5 or 10 people who I follow them, but they don't post. I'd say everybody I follow posts pretty frequently, but it's not every day. So I kind of feel like maybe I don't. So just because they posted something didn't mean I saw it,
Right.
and so I feel like I'm seeing their videos a few times a week versus something like Crack the Spine. I think there's something every day,
Yeah.
and even if there's not, by following her, I think TikTok still sends me like something she did a year ago, just
Right.
because I tend to watch her videos. What about as far as again going back to how many books you read? What percentage do you think you start that you don't finish, or are you, if you start it, you're finishing it?
I feel like there's a small amount of books that I haven't finished. I try to like push through as much as I
I was
can.
just gonna say, you look like you feel guilty for not finishing a book
I
you're not enjoying.
I do. Sometimes I'm like, I really want to enjoy this book. Like, it had such great reviews. I just need to push through it. But there's some that I'm just like, I can't do this. Like, it just
I saw a TikTok of, hey, everybody, we all know there's books we didn't finish. Go ahead and name one you didn't finish. And she said, I just couldn't. I wanted. They said, who's your author who you want to like, but you just don't? And I was like, you know what? There were, going back to Stephen King again, there were several of his books that I picked up. Mr. Mercedes was one of them. I think I started that thing 3 times, and I'm just like, this was just not for me. I just can't get into it. And there were other ones of his that I didn't finish, like It. I didn't finish It. I didn't finish reading it because I saw the movie.
Right.
And God, that's a long book. But
yeah,
I loved how it opened. I loved how it opened so much. I did a blog post about it. I did TikTok videos about it. I did mentioned it in one of my podcasts. I loved how that book opened. But there was a point where I felt like he's just dragging in so much old information and so much. It's not filler if it's commitment. It's like I wasn't willing to commit to spend a week or two reading that book.
Yeah.
You probably blow through it in 2 days, but I just thought like a fish on the hook, and then I got off the hook. It was like I loved the opening, and the deeper he got into the book and the backstories and all the different stories that were going on, the less interesting I found it. I really just wanted to stay with that. The kid who died. I wanted to stay with that. How it opened. I wanted to stay with that story. When it changed up, I was much less interested. And he brings a lot of that stuff in that book, and I was just like, I felt a little bad.
Yeah.
But I loved the opening. I really loved that opening of that book. It was got me right away. And one of the things was, and I used this as an example on myself that I was trying to explain to podcast people or whatever, was I know nothing about this book. I start reading, and within a page, I cared so much about this character who he told us was going to die. I felt terrible. I'm like, sweet kid, I don't want this kid to die.
Right.
And then as an author, I'm like, how in the heck in 2 pages, or maybe less, maybe it was 1 page, did he get me to care so much about this little kid? I was like, that right there, that's why he's Stephen King. I was like, that's just amazing. I wish I could do that. And then I said, I have to try to do that. Then don't I have to try to make people care about my characters so quickly? And it was just, I really felt like it was a real lesson on that. What are some books that just grabbed you on page 1 that you loved, or an author that tends to do that for you?
I don't know. I feel like I read so many books that, like, I don't know if I really get attached to any one author or anything like that. I don't know.
It might be hard to if you're reading, what does that come out to be? 150 books a year or more than that?
Yeah, probably give or take. Yeah, I just feel like I go through so many that I don't really.
I always wondered that. I got a guy, several actually, who are in my readers club that read 300 books a year. Now, one of my friends has a job in a hospital where she does like inputting of files or reviewing of files or something, where she can listen to an audiobook. It's like an 8-hour shift, but she can listen to an audiobook while she's doing it. And 8 hours of audiobook, how long are they? Maybe 2 days, you're done with it. And a lot of them, maybe 1 day. So that made sense why she could read so many books. And then she read as well. But I always wondered, if you're reading 300 books a year, are any of them gonna cling to you, where it's like, it's my favorite book, I would read it again and again and again. It's gonna, have a prized place on my bookshelf. So you're even thinking, maybe at your level, which is still a lot, 150 books a year, a lot of books. But so maybe it does begin to make them not stick out as much, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. I feel like I said, I go through so many that, like, once I'm done with the book, I'm like, okay, what am I going to read next? And I just, and that's usually it for the book. Like,
well, maybe it's kind of like your relationship to books is like other people's relationships to food. It's like, I ate breakfast, I still got to eat lunch. Breakfast was good, but lunch is going to be different. And I'm going to be looking forward to lunch around 10 in the morning
Yeah.
right about the time breakfast is, the memories of breakfast are fading.
Exactly.
So who's next on your, well, what are you reading right now? And who's on your TBR
So
list? What's your next
right
up?
now, I am currently reading. I actually found her on TikTok, J.R. Erickson. She is an author. She does I think it's the Michigan Insane Asylum. She has like a whole series. And she has a few other, but I'm currently reading Some Can See by her, and it's really great. There's some like paranormal activity to it. There's some murder mystery, so it's actually really good. I'm almost done with that. And then next, I don't know what I'm gonna read next. I have so many books like lined up next to my bedside table that
How
I'm
many
sure
books are in your to be read list, the TBR?
oh gosh.
More than 100?
No, probably like 25, 30.
That's a lot of books. So
Yeah.
you'll finish. Well, when are you going to finish the one that you're reading right now? Tonight?
I'll probably finish it by like maybe dinner time, if not sooner.
All right. So does that mean the next book gets started tonight after dinner?
Yep.
Yeah, you're like a chain smoker, one after the other. Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
No, it's so bad. I try to like I feel like because like I said, I moved to a new state away from, my entire family. And it just kind of like it's my escape, I guess, in a way. It's like my own thing.
Well, you were a enthusiastic reader before you moved.
I would say more so now.
You
Now
read
that
more
I'm
now?
yeah. I used to read quite a bit, but I feel like I read definitely a lot more than I did.
So you were in the Boston area and you went to, you said North Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. I was going to say, that's a pretty big switch. South Carolina is
Yeah.
probably even more dramatic, much less. How long have you been there now? 2 years?
A year.
1 year? So you've seen the cycle. Well, you didn't get 8 feet of snow. You didn't get 6 months of no sun. South Carolina, so you were there over the winter. Does it get snow? Does South Carolina get snow?
No, we haven't had any snow.
I live in Florida. We will get flurries once every couple of years. I'm in Tampa, like it's maybe been 20 years since Tampa had flurries, but we went to a meeting in not a meeting, what do I want to call it? Like a conference thing in Daytona Beach area a couple of years ago. It's been like 10 years, I think, probably close to 10 years. And there were snow flurries that day. So, but that was like end of January, beginning of February, flurries. It was like, you had to take a picture of it because an hour later it wasn't going to be there.
It was exactly.
But so then the weather's definitely more moderate, depending on where you are in South Carolina. Do you get a change of seasons? I guess you do there, right? The leaves change colors and stuff.
We're close to like Hilton Head Island, so
okay, so you're up near the coast.
Sometimes I mean mostly it's hot, mostly all the time. But when like the fall rolls around, it does cool down a little bit, but it's still pretty warm. But there's no snow. So.
What facilitated the move? Why did you decide on South Carolina?
So my husband actually got a job down this way, so we were like, let's try it out. And it was definitely like a big change of.
Sure. Well, had you been in Massachusetts your whole life until then?
Yes.
Well, you probably traveled and took vacations and went different places.
Yeah. But yeah, we lived up there. I've been there for 28 years, and then we moved down here, and it was like, whoa. But it's been great. We like it.
Well, they talk a little different from how you do, so you must hear that all the time.
All the time. Everybody asks me if I'm from New York or New Jersey. So
yeah, if I only listen to you a little bit, it doesn't sound like New Jersey. To me, it sounds a little New Yorkish, but there are certain. I already teased you on one of them. You said we moved from Massachusetts, how you guys say it. Yeah. And I was like, a New Yorker doesn't say it that way. People from Massachusetts say it that way.
Yep.
And then Boston, I think, has a little different dialect than some of the other places in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I was watching Dolores Claiborne, and they're in, is it Maine? I think they're in Maine. That movie takes place in Maine. And so it's like everybody's got that, that Maine accent is just very different. I could probably confuse Boston and Maine accent. I'm sure you being from there, you wouldn't. But So
Tell the difference.
you're now the one with the accent in South Carolina. It's not
Yes,
them. To you, it's them.
it's me. Yep.
My brother lived in North Carolina, in like southern North Carolina for a while, in a very small city. And I went to visit him. Now, this is a long time ago. This is when I was in college. And I got lost. I was driving. We didn't have Tik Tok, so I had like a road map or something. You know, it
Right.
was like turn left on Elm Street, and I missed Elm Street. So I stopped the equivalent of a 7-Eleven, but it was like a mom and pop owned 7-Eleven.
Right.
And I went in and I asked the guy, I'm like, the guy behind the counter, old guy. I said, I'm looking for this street in this city. It was Washington, North Carolina. It's the city my brother lived in, which is a small place. And the guy was like, yeah. And he's like, telling me the directions. And I'm just like, can you repeat that again?
Yeah.
I'm so bad. I could not now he was a really, really country
Yep.
Southern accent. And I'm not. I'm like a Midwest. I was born in Ohio, so I kind of a Midwestern.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I like to think I'm pretty good at accents. In fact, I think I got it. Man, I couldn't understand him. And after a couple times, I'm just like, all right, thank you. I had no idea what he said.
Right.
And went to my brother. He goes, the other thing you'll see around here, I'm going to ask you if this is true. He goes, when you go to the bank, you go to the grocery store, you're not just in and out. They want to strike up a conversation. So how's your day?
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of that?
It's very slow down here.
Well, it's slow. It's more folksy, and that takes time, right?
Yes.
So that, I think, especially Boston moves pretty fast.
Yep.
I think that must be one of those, oh my God, I almost hate to go to the bank because I don't want to spend 10 minutes talking about stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've been there a year, close to a year. Have you gotten used to it? Have you just decided, all right, I'll just make all my trips on Tuesday. It's my day off. I'll let the locals have at me. And talk my ear off.
Yeah, I think I've adjusted pretty well. I'm like, it's so different because everyone down here is very friendly. And up north, we're not as friendly. So that was like kind of a big adjustment. Like just someone being like, hi, how are you? Like, how's your day going? Was like, why do you need to know? But now I've adjusted a little bit better now. So
that's awesome. You hear that about New Yorkers who go to Texas. They're like, oh my God, everybody's so friendly here. What the hell why do they need to know this? Stop asking me questions. And so then the reverse is true. When somebody from Texas or South Carolina, wherever, goes up north, they're like, these people are rude. They just don't, and I don't know. New York is a big city. Boston's a big city. Were you guys actually in Boston or around Boston?
Yes. So I am from Charlestown. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie like The Town with Ben Affleck.
Probably not. I just know that Boston is big.
Yeah.
And a lot of its little suburbs are still Boston-ish, Yep.
So we were directly right in the city. We were right next to like the north end part of Boston, like downtown. So I was like just directly in the city. Yeah,
that's basically almost like living in New York City, and then Green Acres kind of thing. Went from the big city out to the not so big city, and people are different. I like the fact that they're friendly, and the fact that if something's wrong, they're much more likely to stop and help you out, or even if they think you need help, they'll offer.
Right.
You probably get less of that. But to me, it was, and I just figured this is just how I am because I grew up in Ohio. People are friendly in Ohio. But I just was like, my first reaction was the slow thing. I think my dad was the one pointed out. He goes, slow, but for a reason, they're friendlier, and friendly takes time. And I was like, fair enough. I'm probably coming off as a jerk, which I think I probably do anyway. I've been living here a long time. I probably still do, just because I'm not thinking about making small talk. I don't know you. Just ring up my damn groceries.
Exactly.
So you learn, if I go to this store, they don't talk too much. I'll just get in and out.
I'll just go there. Yeah, I'll be in and out.
Yeah. If I go to the mom and pop store, it's gonna be there. Gonna be there for a while.
Yes.
So you don't know what's on your to be read list. What are some of your options? What do you got to be leaning towards something? Let's face it, if you're coming up on the ending of the book you're reading, you've had to been thinking about the next one in line.
Yeah.
You have top contenders.
I have a couple. So I have by Karen Slaughter, Girl in Pieces. I've been like sitting on that because it's kind of long.
Now, did you already say you read a bunch of Karen Slaughter before?
I have read Blindsided. That was the first book I read by her. I read False Witness.
I have 2 of hers.
Yeah. So I read those 2. I really enjoyed them. I have Girl in Pieces, but it's a long one. So I'm like, I don't know if I should start it. I've been sitting on that for a little bit.
Well, what's long? What's long for you versus an average book? What's a
I
regular
would
book?
say, I feel like typically the books I read have been anywhere between like 250 to like 400 pages.
400's long. 250
Yeah.
is good size.
Yeah.
We got a book from my daughter. She's got to do a summer reading thing, and it was like 100 I want to say 120 pages,
Yeah.
which she was like, she's 12. She can read 120 pages, it's not that hard. She was like, oh man, but like, she's like, it's summer. I was like, honey, it's 112 pages, and there's illustrations in there on a couple of the pages. She was like,
Right.
oh, good. So it's like, it doesn't count, So she's all about getting to it fast. Now, most avid readers, I find, it could be wrong, they enjoy the longer stories. Because they read so much, they're like, I'm not in a rush to get this thing over with. I'm okay if it's 400. 400, I think I have a couple that are 400 or a little longer. I have one, I wrote a kind of fantasy romance. It's like 650. And I actually haven't published that one because it's just not what I write. So it's going to come out and do nothing because the people who read me aren't looking for me to write that. And the people who read that and like it aren't going to be able to find another one that I wrote.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, maybe I should stick a pen name on it and just put it out there. Then if it does well, then I'll have to write another one. So it's a lose-lose for me.
Right.
But I hate to write. It's a great story, but I hate to write that much and just have it do nothing. It's been sitting around for years. I need to do something with it. But so more than 400 is, so what is who'd you say? Is it Karen Slaughter's? How big is the book you're contemplating that maybe is too big?
I have it with me over here on my little stand. So it's this one. It's pretty.
This is funny. See, I thought you were in like the living room.
No.
Are you not? Are you sitting on a bed?
We have a dog, and he's very nosy, so I have to like hide.
Well, the way you got up, it indicates like maybe you're sitting on a bed.
So yeah, this one's about.
Let's see. Hold it up. It looks big.
68 pages.
Oh, it looks bigger than that.
Yeah. So.
Pieces for, well, that's one that a lot of people on TikTok are talking about.
Yes, and that's why I actually originally bought it. And then I've just been sitting on it because I'm like, I feel like it's going to be really, really good. So I want to like.
I don't know if that's the one I bought from her. It seemed like TikTok was wild about that one like 2 months ago or 3 months ago. Seems like it comes and goes in waves.
Yeah.
Like January, it's all about Colleen Hoover. The next was 7 Wives of What's-a-Majigger.
Right.
It's like waves. And I've been trying to not be a surfer, to like not jump on those waves because I think maybe it's the people I follow, the ones that pop up in my feed, which is if I follow you, TikTok is going to send me more people like you, right? That's not a bad thing, but I follow a lot of people who don't necessarily want more like them.
Right.
Because I like them, not so much their topics.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But TikTok can't figure that part out. So they send me more about those topics, say. But so is that the leading contender there?
I think so. And then I have on my Kindle by Lucinda Berry, The Perfect Child. I've been like sitting on that for a little bit. I've heard really good things. I've read a few of her books that I really enjoyed. So
well, there you go. So then the problem with the author is you volume readers. It's like, oh, we can't write them fast enough. Have you read anything by Lucy Foley, The Apartment and the Guest List?
No. So I had The Paris Apartment on my list to like eventually get, but I heard some mixed reviews on that. So I'm like, I don't know, but I'll probably still read it. I'll probably still check it out.
So I had a friend who raved about The Guest List, and I think maybe that was a wave of TikTok for a while. So again, all right, I'll grab it. And I think I grabbed both of her books, both of those two, The Apartment and The Guest List. And I think I started reading The Guest List, and I was like, okay, I like the opening, okay. Mm-hmm. And then it descended into a bunch of backstory type stuff for me that I was just like, I don't know about this. And it was one of those ones I kept trying to read it. And I was always, it's the great leveler. It's like, well, the lawn does need to be mowed, so I won't read the book. If you're finding you're doing the dishes instead of reading the book, you probably don't want to read that book.
You probably don't, exactly.
So I have a big DNF because mostly I need to be right. All right.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna produce 6 books this year, minimum 6 weeks each, you gotta have a little time in between books. or at least I do. And then there's a lot of folding and stuff from beta readers, critique people who, you know, it counts towards the book time, but
Yeah.
I'm not writing the book at that point. So six would be a lot. I'm probably not gonna make it to six, but that would limit me to like 6 or 12 books. I mean, I could probably read a lot more, but because I'm writing, really, I'm like superstitious. I don't want to read a book and then accidentally like pick up ideas from that book and put it in my story.
And put it in yours. Yeah.
Even though people say, authors everywhere say, you don't really do that. I'm like, I'm nervous I would. So I'll watch vague, boring TV show, not boring, I should say, but just TV shows that I don't have to actually be super conscious for.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My writing, I do need to be, so it's like my brain needs a rest. And the flip side of that then is, because it's so, I can put on something and I'm so not required to engage my brain in it. I'll float away and I'll start thinking about, you know, it'd be a neat twist if this happened in the next story. And I'm making notes, and my wife will come in. Oh, what? It's been, you know, 15 minutes. What happened with so and so? I'm like, I don't know. I can back it up. We'll just watch it, because she goes, you just watched. I'm like, I wasn't paying attention at all.
I wasn't paying attention. Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention at all. Not at all. Now, what about, you got a husband, you got kids? Who are the other avid readers in the household? Does anybody take your recommendations and read them as well?
No, it's just me. So we have 2 kids, an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old. I'm trying to get my 11-year-old into like reading, but she'll read once in a while, but she's mostly.
Yeah, that's how my daughter is. She just, and I think a fair number of her friends are just not, it's not our thing, but they read a ton because they text constantly.
Yes.
And they'll play a game. She's really fast, where they'll be playing a game on their iPad and she can type a message like to one of the other characters. She can type a message so insanely quick. Like if I'm playing the game with them, which they don't invite me to do anymore, but a couple years ago when they did, because it's like, it's fun if there's 2, but they need a third one and they can kill daddy pretty easily. So that was like the dupe, the foil or whatever. And they would talk, let's have a meeting, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, God, how can you type that fast? And she was just blindingly fast.
Yeah.
So it's not like they don't read, they're just reading in other ways.
Right.
Maybe if the pages of the story, this summer reading thing, maybe if those would pop up in little balloons on her iPhone as text messages, she would read the book. So
yeah, it's just me, my kids, my husband, the dog.
None of them are, well, the dog's probably not a big reader, but you never know. They tend to be quiet about what they like and don't like as far as reading.
Right.
You know? So nobody else in the household is a big reader?
Nope, just me.
My daughter liked to write stories for years. She and I put together a couple that we published, and they did well. But you know, you deal with a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old at that point.
Right.
And then she enjoyed writing, and she still does. She'll bring me something where it's like she'll do it on her iPad now, and she'll say, "Can I send this to you when we print it out for me?" Because it's still a big deal to hold a piece of paper in your hand with a story that you wrote. And it's neat the things that she drills down on. You know, like she's really trying to make this. This character is walking down the street, and it's dark, and she's looking over her shoulder. It's my daughter's story. Looking over her shoulder, and there was a puddle. And for some reason, she had to go down this alley, and she was like holding her coat closed because she was afraid to do it or whatever. That she was really describing it well. But then the story went nowhere. It's like, she gets into the alley, and that's the end of the story.
And that's
like, it. Is there more to this? She's like, not yet, maybe. It's like we're doing months. I'm like, oh, that's all there is of this one. It even had a good title, you know, and it seemed like a neat character. I don't know why she had to go down the alley or what was going on.
The alley,
So she used to do that a lot, like couple times a week. Now it's like once, twice a year, she'll write a little something, and she wants to make sure, Dad, you still have that story? I'm like, the 1-page story you wrote 6 months ago? Yeah, it's in my computer somewhere. Oh, can you bring it up? I want to add on to it. Sure. And she'll like change one sentence. So here you go. Okay. All right. So we talked about your to be read list. What's next? What big things are on the horizon for you here?
I don't know. I just kind of take it as it comes. Just, you know, I work quite a bit, so just trying to balance, you know, work, life, and
most hairstylists are busy on the weekends. Is that right?
Yes.
That's like your big.
So where we are, I feel like the weekends are a lot quieter than it is at the
Oh, that's
beginning of the
true. In South Carolina, maybe that's not. You were a
yeah.
hairstylist in Boston, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I never thought about that. See, so I had a lady who was cutting my hair. She was like a hairstylist, but she was a friend. She was the
Yep.
mother of one of my daughter's classmates. And so I was going to her for a long time. And the COVID thing happened. So they
Stopped. Yep.
weren't able to do it for a while. And then she had a thing where, hairstylists are on your feet like all day.
Yep.
And she had something where we knew about it before COVID happened, but it was some autoimmune or whatever, where she was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep having strangers come in, right?
Right.
And then COVID happened, and she was like, no. So she stopped. I had to find somebody else. And she would tell me that I always felt bad if I was trying to make an appointment with her on Saturday or Sunday. I never thought to do it on Sunday because I thought that's your family time. But she was like, no, that's when I'm busiest. I was like, well, then that's a good reason for me not to come. Get some other client because I can see anytime during the week. But so you're saying maybe yes, it's still busy on the weekends or not so much?
I feel like not so. I mean, definitely around the holidays, it's very busy weekends. But I feel like as of lately, weekends are pretty quiet. So it's a little weird because back, up north, it's busy all the time. But I feel like down here, more towards the beginning, middle of the week, we're pretty busy.
Interesting. Well, like I said, the lady who cuts my hair now is the same thing. She's like, yeah, we're busy on the weekends. And if people have got weddings and the holidays and all that stuff, like it doesn't matter the holiday, I guess, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, there's whatever holidays coming up, everyone wants to get done and get their hair did for the big thing, whatever it is. But, and then I don't know what day she takes off. I know she has one day during the week, might be Monday. And it looks like Tuesday is your day that you take off.
Yep.
And then, so is your salon not open that day or just everybody takes a different day off?
So yeah, everyone has a different day off. We are closed Sundays, but I'm off Tuesdays and every other Saturday. So it works out nicely.
So did you have anything else that you wanted to ask me?
I feel like we covered a lot. I feel like this was definitely very different for me too, like getting myself out of my shell a little bit.
Well, that's the biggest thing. Most readers, so here's the big benefit to me, right? I can look at what people who review books say, like again, not like the New York Times is knocking on my door to review my book, but as an example, there was a TV show that came out. I only know this because I think I saw something about it on TikTok. And it's like Sylvester Stallone or somebody has a TV show. I think it's Sylvester Stallone, right? And it's probably not even Sylvester Stallone. We'll just use him. So it's some TV show where the critics have on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics are giving it a, I think it's not Sylvester Stallone. It's the guy from the Jurassic Park movies. That guy, whatever his name is, Chris something. Is it Pratt? Chris Pratt?
Oh, Chris Pratt, maybe.
Is he the Jurassic Park guy? Like the guy who trained the dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Oh, he does a lot of them from The Office, and I think he's like the biggest star in Hollywood. I can't think of his name. Yeah. Let's just say it's Chris Pratt. So he did some kind of a TV show where it's on one of the streaming services, right? So on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got like a 30% approval rating from critics, but like a 90 or 95% approval rating from regular fans.
Right.
And this is why it's like, it's great if the New York Times or anybody else, honestly, who wants to review my books, that's great. But they're not going to give me the kind of insight that somebody like you, who reads so many books every year, again, that's normal for you. But for somebody like me, that's a crazy number of books to read. It's just, I wouldn't be able to read that many if I wanted to. And there are sometimes when I would want to, wouldn't have. where I can sit here and I pick your brain and we talk about things like, the cover. It's like, it's so insanely difficult for someone like me to pick a cover. And if I do it right, the book sells. If I don't do it right, the book doesn't sell. It's not life or death, but it's like, it's harder to sell. It's easier to sell. Same thing with the book description, right? And then other things about, the go-to authors and different things you like and different things you're willing to try and all that. So to where there are authors who watch the podcast who are like, oh, the light bulb goes off. Oh, I never knew about that. And there are readers who watch the podcast who are like, they want to know what the thought process is here from person reviewing books like yourself book enthusiast, an avid reader, somebody like me who's doing writing them. And it's interesting to look at, like, you're the audience, right? So you don't get a chance to interact with the audience in this kind of a format unless you invite them on. Many authors are introverts, so there's not a lot of authors doing podcasts. Most readers are introverts. So most avid readers, let's say, tend to be introverted. So even though there are people I would love to have come on, a lot of them won't do it because, like, there's just microphones and cameras. It's like, no. So I always appreciate it. But for TikTok has been a big one for that, where it's open that, where you figure, okay, well, I'm already doing the videos. I'm already talking to people. You know, he's probably not going to be mean to me. Things like that. Yeah. But it's a longer format. But I always throw it open. I don't even know if I told you this. It's, let's schedule a half hour. We'll talk as long as we want to talk. If it goes an hour and a half, I don't care. And as long as it's interesting, we're having fun. Great. If we're done in 20 minutes, hey, hopefully we can get 20 minutes. Well, I absolutely enjoyed it. I wanted to pick your brain. I always like hearing the process that somebody chooses their next book, or especially people who read so much that, there are other people like me who 6 books, man, there's zillions of authors out there. They don't have a chance with me. Somebody like you, they have a chance. And then you go on TikTok and tell the world, about it. Let me ask you this. What have any of your videos gone viral, or what's like been your most popular one?
So I noticed the ones where I post with like a cool coffee mug. People seem to love them. I have like a few Golden Girls mugs. I had a Johnny Depp mug that everyone loves.
I've seen those where you go, the ones where this is my coffee and this is. I never paid attention to what the mug was. I'm totally ready to see what the book is.
I love your mug. I'm like, maybe I should do
hilarious.
More. So
So do you have a lot of different coffee mugs?
I rotate between like 3 different ones. I have the Golden Girls. I have a Stranger Things one, and then
that's hilarious.
Yeah, and then Johnny Depp one. So
people love it. All 3 of those are timely. Well, maybe not Golden Girls. Golden Girls may not be so timely, but Johnny Depp is definitely timely. Now, that's hilarious. I'm gonna have to get on TikTok now and look at those videos, because I totally don't at all. So I don't drink coffee. So when you could, and it's not always coffee, wasn't it? An energy drink or something?
It's not always coffee. No, sometimes it's a Red Bull. Sometimes it's
I remember that. So I remember you doing that, and I'm like, and it's is it you saying it, or is it a?
No, it's like a
whatever you call it. It's an audio from something.
Like a voiceover or something. Yeah.
Whatever you call this. Yeah, because it doesn't sound like it. So like, here's my coffee, and here's this, and this is what I'm. And so I'm always like, all right, we gotta. What do you read? I never thought that people would be interested in the coffee mugs, but now, so that could be your niche. Like how Bill Cosby used to do, always on his TV show, he used to always wear the different sweaters. Everybody was it sweatshirts, whatever it was, and then everybody was always sending him sweaters, really outrageous, wild sweaters. That could be your thing. You could say, hey, send me your mug, and I'll feature it in a video. You would get some. In fact, I've got some mugs I could probably send you. My thing is usually I have my Harry Potter mugs. Right?
Oh yeah, okay.
Just because I had a gift certificate to Universal Studios that I needed to spend on something. It was like it was good for so many days, and my daughter was into Harry Potter, and I was like, well, buy the tumblers. And then she didn't like drinking out of a glass that tall. Her glasses that she liked were shorter. Yeah. She actually had a bunch of coffee mugs because we put her picture on and stuff. Or there was one that was Among Us, that game that they were playing for a while. Yes. So you could get a little mug that said Savvy is sus, and that's her nickname, Savvy, Savannah. Yeah. So we got a bunch of those mugs, or we put her friends on them. And so she drinks out of those all the time, or she drinks her bottled water stuff. So I ended up using the tumblers because they would be like, oh, this is at least clean, I'll use it.
Just use it, yeah.
I kind of rotate through, and a couple of them got melted in the dishwasher. So I had 2 Harry Potter tumblers and a USF Bulls tumbler. And those are always like, usually during my podcast, I'm usually taking a sip, and people are like, oh, you're drinking out of your Harry Potter mugs. It's like, it's not the Harry Potter thing as much as it's pretty big glass, and it's not glass, it's plastic. So I can drop it. It's not gonna put shards of glass everywhere. I don't know why. For some reason that was important to me. Now it's just a habit. Yeah. Well, I drink tea in them too, so they're kind of stained inside. So nobody else wants to drink out of them. They look dirty all the time.
Like this is mine now.
But I digress. Anyhow, Well, I had a good time talking with you. I'm glad
Yeah,
you
this was
decided to take
great.
some time to come out and talk with me. I would love to do it again sometime.
Yes,
Next
absolutely.
time I talk to you, you'll have gone through another 100 books. So you'll have to get us caught up on your top reads. Hey, you can do something like that, like end of the year, top reads this year, or anything like that.
Yeah, maybe. I try to do like a monthly,
I
at
saw
the end of the
that.
month. I kind
Well,
of
you'll
try
have to
to,
look at all your end of months, and then of
yes,
all my best of the months, here's my best of the.
the
You'll
whole
have to
year.
pick a
Yeah.
best of the year. That'd be a good way to finish out the year. I'm sure your readers would, your followers rather, would like to see
Yeah,
that.
that
I
sounds,
would.
yeah.
All righty. Well, let's end it there. It was great spending this time with you. And I'm
Yes,
going to
thank
have to
you so
now go
much.
check out your mugs on TikTok.
Yeah.
And
All
whenever you
right.
kind of want to come back, let me know. If you have anything important you want to talk about that the world needs to know about, we'll talk about it here too.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. I had a great time.
I had fun too. Thanks a lot for doing this with me.
Bye.
All right. And then we will go ahead and stop the recording there. If I can figure out how to blow my screen back up. There we go. We'll stop it there and that'll take care of it. Stop recording. Boom.